And welcome, Kate. Welcome to the BTS Creative Academy podcast. Very nice to have you here. Kate Surinska. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You did just tell me 2 minutes ago.
Yes, Surinskaya. Yes, pretty close, pretty close. Thank you.
No, thank you for being patient with me there. That's one of my one of my worst things, getting surnames correct, getting names correct.
It's all good. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Martin.
It's wonderful to have you here. I recently found out about one of your films. It was on at the Romford Film Festival, and I understand that it's going around the film circuits at the festival circuits at the moment.
Correct. Yes.
A film that you starred in, you
Yeah.
wrote and directed. Is that correct?
Yes, all correct. Yeah.
Yeah. The name of the film is T.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a small short film T that I did last year. Yeah, as a part of this filmmaking challenge that I'm actually currently doing too. So yeah, a year later, I decided to throw myself into this crazy adventure. But yeah, film T was born out of this filmmaking challenge that I did last year.
So this is a filmmaking challenge.
Yeah.
This isn't a personal project of your own then.
I mean, it kind of became obviously a personal project, but no, originally, yeah, I decided to participate in a 2 week collaboration challenge. It's launched here in LA. And the premise of it is that within 2 weeks, they're giving you a quote and you make a film from scratch to finish. And then if the judges select your film, they're screening it at the theater, at the movie theater, and you are able to also kind of like win some prizes. And so we went into finals. We had our screening, and we also got a second place for cinematography. And Madonna McGee, my co-star, she was also nominated for best acting.
Oh, wonderful. So how did this isn't a course as such that you're on, is it? Or is it a course? What would you call it? Is it a mentorship program?
No, there's like no mentorship. You just, they're just sort of like giving you this quote, and you have to be inspired by it, and you just you're on your own. You're on your own. You have to gather your own crew, gather all the resources. Write a script that feels right for you, right for like this quote, and then yeah, you just make it yourself. So no, this is just like whatever filmmaker feels inspired by, and they're bringing, like I said, their own resources. So there is no mentorship.
So what help do they help you with? Do they help you financially with this?
No, nothing. No. It's
Nothing
just
at all.
no. It's just kind of like it's a similar platform to like 48-hour challenges. I don't know if they're popular in the UK, but they're really popular in the US. When filmmakers just like, oh, this is a contest, and within like 48 hours, you just kind of create a film. But this is like the same, but just they give you a little bit more time.
Oh, okay. So now that you've done this, it's helped you create like a platform to showcase your talents, hasn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like, I think it's helping you personally as a filmmaker. It definitely helps you grow because you just have to think super fast in every department. You have to create the script really fast. You have to like gather people in terms of producing. That also can be a challenge. And yeah, it's in post production, like everything happens like very quickly, and the time goes by just like very quickly. And last year was definitely, it was kind of scary for me to do it because I've used to, have a lot of time to prep ahead and just sort of like, you know, marinate the story in my head and just like be ready for directing. And here you're just like, well, off you go, like now you're from script, now you're directing, and then you're like back to post, and you have to just do it all very quickly and make like decisions quickly. So, but I think it's, it helps you grow, and it kind of makes you, I think, stronger as a filmmaker, because after that you're like, okay, well, I know how to navigate certain challenges, it just it's always helpful to I think stretch your directing, acting, whatever, writing muscles, everything.
What would you say you are predominantly? Would you say you're predominantly an actress, or would you say you're a writer or a director? What is your main focus of your craft? What do you do most?
Well, it kind of shifted over the years. So I started as an actress. So as far as like experience and education, I guess I have more in acting. But then like over 2020, I really took writing into um, consideration. I was just like, instead of just scribbling some stories, I actually started putting work into it and learning about screenwriting. And I started writing features first, kind of went backwards, but then I worked my way back into shorts. Found that it's a very actually challenging skill to do, but it's I think it's necessary also for filmmakers to crack that muscle because it makes your features also very like tight and polished in the end. And directing, it just, yeah, it's sort of like, I think it was kind of for me it was almost like the graduation of everything that I've learned from being on set, from working in production. And it was sort of like the next step, I feel like, in my career, in my growth. And I don't know, I feel like I don't want to necessarily to like pigeonhole myself and just be like, okay, I'm just one thing, because at the end I think I'm a storyteller, and I just want to tell stories in any capacity that I can.
Mm. That's really interesting because I'm an actor first. I've been doing acting for a number of years, but I found myself moving into other areas like directing, writing, producing. Uh, Predominantly, I started to do that to just explore the other areas because I was interested.
Mhm.
Um, but then I started to find that those areas moving into writing and directing were giving me strength as an actor. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely feel like learning how to write helped me, or actually probably the opposite. Like basically being an actor helped me to see like good scripts out of the bad ones, right? And just kind of also shape my own stories in a better way. Um, but also, yeah, writing I think helps me just to like visualize the story, and I think it helps me with directing because I know exactly deeply like where the story goes on sort of like bone level. And yeah, I think it just like all of it is kind of enhancing one or the other.
Mm.
And like I'm pretty much, I'm an advocate of like, okay, you have to explore these avenues, just once in your lifetime, see what you can do, and see if that helps you, and see if, maybe you're discovering some new skill of yours, maybe you already like passion, because that's kind of what was writing for me. At first it just started like as a sort of, I don't know, I just felt like, okay, I just want to try it and tell some stories. And I was like bored in New York, during winter when there was like no work. And it just sort of like even wrote like it from, from hand at first. But then it evolved. And I actually really enjoy writing right now. I feel like it's the most like peaceful and most creative stage, because I'm just like on my own, and I can like reshape it as many times as I want. And versus like, with acting and directing, it's kind of like uncertain, and unless you have a story, you can't really tell it. Um, so
Tell
yeah,
me a little bit more about you taking the skills of an actor then, and using those skills as an actor and using them for your writing. Does it somehow help with the characters that you develop?
I think so. Yeah, it definitely helps me to envision how they talk. So I think it definitely helps with the dialogue. Um, yeah, just by also just going through like lots of back in school, or I'm continuing training too, constantly. So like you read like good scripts, you read good like plays and stuff, and you just kind of you understand what differentiates it, like the good script from bad, and good dialogue from bad dialogue. So and just also how to tell maybe a story instead of like just constantly talking about it, maybe to tell it in a different way, and to giving basically an opportunity for an actor to express what you want to say in a different way, via like subtext or any gestures or whatever action they do.
I've found with myself with writing that being being and understanding improvisation has helped me with writing. Being free in the moment to just let the words kind of come out of me without overthinking it has
Hmm.
helped me become has helped me with my writing process. Would you say you've had similar experience with that?
Yeah, I well, on T, I mean, you if you've seen the film, I mean, I don't have like many lines there, right? But that kind of was on purpose. I When I wrote this character, I felt like this was this was a person who just, they're going through something very, very deeply traumatic and personal, and they're not ready to talk about it yet. They're just like they're just going, like, they're processing it. So that's why I really didn't have any like lines. And actually on set, when I'm throwing like rocks into the ocean, and I said this was not my fault, this like came out organically, like, it just kind of came out, right there.
Mhm.
And I've decided, I was kind of going back and forth, like whether I want to keep that line or not, but I've decided to like to leave it there. But yeah, sometimes I feel like just when I'm writing, I I try to get to know the characters like really well, so that way, when I'm directing, I know exactly what to say to, the opposite actress or actor, and just like know how to communicate with them, like, hey, well, this is not exactly maybe how I envisioned because of this and this, and you just want to try. I think this is very important for a director in general, to know the story so well and the characters so well. So that way, if, I don't know, an actor is lost, you can basically guide them, and you can kind of shift them in the right direction of the story.
Mhm. So where you directed, you wrote, and you starred in it, how did you find the whole process of directing yourself? How did you find that?
That was, I've done a film before. My first film, Parallels, where I mean, the majority of acting was done by other actors, but still, I had a few days where I had to be on screen. I had this supporting role, so that was like my first experience with directing myself. I think I was prepping a lot for that role, and I was rehearsing, and I just decided, like, okay, like, on the day, this is just gonna be, you gotta let go, right? As you all know, so you gotta let go. But I sort of based on my personal feeling at first, and then I would like go to the monitor. We didn't have like too much time to do all the time, but I did look. Yeah, I looked at first the monitor. Actually, fun fact that I was wearing something in that big scene. There was like a big emotional scene, and I was wearing something else. Like I was wearing another piece of wardrobe,
Mhm.
and then I realized, okay, no, this is not her. I was like, this is not, even though like I proved it before the on the day, right? But when I saw it on screen, I was like, no, I look too modern here. And it was a 70s, it was 1970s piece, so it was kind of like, period piece, and I was like, no, 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 this is not right. So I had to go back to change, and then we redid it, and I just try to, have my own, I don't know how to say, just like inner guidance. So like, did I do it right or not? And usually I am right. Like when I look at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this felt right. Like, or it didn't, and I'm like, okay, we have to do it again. So similar with tea, although it was more of like fast paced, and like less prep. It was like, less than a day of just me kind of going into the woods and just like walk around and feel it. So that was like obviously scary, and that was like I was mostly on screen there, so that was also a bit of a thrill. Like,
It's quite it sounds like quite a lot of pressure on you, isn't there, to when you're making a short film like this and you're writing, directing, producing, acting, and you're wearing many hats, there is a lot, you're juggling a lot of balls.
yeah,
How you mentioned there about that inner voice and how important that inner voice is. Is it
yeah.
is there Is there something to that inner voice that drives you forward?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, in general, in my life, I feel like I've always tried to listen to this intuition and this inner voice. And I remember exactly like when I came across this challenge. It just sort of came pop up in my newsletter, and I was like, "This is interesting. Let me just check it out." So I went to this event. They always like have this kickoff event where you meet filmmakers and you can collaborate with them. And I realized, and at first I just came as an actress. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just try it as an actress. But then I saw like there were a lot of filmmakers, and most of them were also men, and I was like, well, like I don't know why there are not so many women filmmakers here. Let me just maybe do something about it. And so then the idea for T came. I had that before. I knew about the real aspect of the story before, like a long time ago, about this man who saved lives in Australia. But it was one of those ideas that I was like, well, I'll get to it one day, maybe. And then it sort of like clicked in my head. I was like, oh, this could be good for this particular assignment.
Mm.
Um, and it was, yeah, it was definitely tough. It was tough to like find that courage, just to do it. It was sort of like back and forth, in my head, negotiation, like, should I do this? Should I not? But then when the story popped in my head, I was like, well, this is it. Like the story's here. So the story's here. It landed. Now there's no way back. Like I wrote it and I was like, there's no way back. I have to do this.
So was there like a confidence moment? Was there a moment of like, I'm going down this journey now, I'm doing this?
Yeah.
Was
Oh,
there a moment was there a moment like that?
oh yes. Even going back to going to set, it was like, oh god, oh god, I guess I'm doing this. It's always nerve wracking, because I'm sure as an actor you always feel like you're watched and judged, and you feel like most, I guess, insecure, because you're just you're very vulnerable, you're very open, and that's when you just have to obviously allow that to show. You have to be so, like, in a way you have to be that confident to be that vulnerable, in front of people. So
Mm.
I think it just takes courage. I mean, I'm an advocate for actors always. I always try to, like, when I'm directing, I always try to make them feel confident and comforted on set, because I know how it feels, and I'm sure with all those moving pieces, and when they are setting up lighting, and if they're talking, whatever, like, I know how it feels when when you're out of your bubble
Mm.
and you're exposed. So I mean, I'm the same way. I feel the same way all the time. It's just one of those things that you kind of, I don't know, get yourself together and you connect to the story, and you're trying to just put that fourth wall, and hoping that it shows on camera. Hoping that everything that you thought through about the story and the character, it's gonna work for you.
I guess for me, I find the best place is when I just concentrate on the work, when I stop worrying about myself and put that to
Mhm.
one side. Because like you say, as an actor, we know that we're being judged. I guess whatever art or craft that we're doing, we're showing that to the world,
Right.
and people are going to comment in it, aren't they? And if we think about that too much, we won't do anything, will we?
No, you're right.
We'll
Yeah.
just pause and stop and freeze, and no progress will be made. So for me, I try to let go and just concentrate on the art. Forget the audience, the others, the critiques, and all that matters. You mentioned it there. You work on the film. You work
Yeah.
on what's in front of you.
No, you're right. You're right. You have to just have this laser focus, really. Yeah. And be able to, like you said, concentrate and just put aside all of those voices that are going through your mind. I think usually I have those voices like before the shoot, maybe. But
Hmm.
again, on the day, I'm just like, we're here, we're doing this, we have tasks to do, just we have, to focus on this. So I'm just trying to put that aside. But again, with even though it was like really it was a really hard project for me just because I've never done something like this on a very short turnaround. But at the same time, I don't know, there was something in me that kind of said, like, you have to do this to test yourself and to see if you can actually do it, do something like this challenging. And it was basically my first like project of first short film, doing everything in the US, and including producing, like gathering all the crew. So it was just like a really good test of can I do this, and am I able to deliver some kind of good film, in such a short turnaround. And I'm actually very proud of it because, like I said, it was more about just growing as a person, as a filmmaker, as a creative, for me.
It's a wonderful place to be, isn't it? To have that sense of accomplishment and achievement. I know that before we hit record on this, you said today that you were feeling quite accomplished today. You felt like you'd achieved something. We didn't actually get into that. Why
Yeah.
you were feeling accomplished and achieving today? What happened? What happened today that gave you that sense of accomplishment?
Well, this year I am crazy enough to do this challenge again. So it's this time of the year, they always do this collaboration challenge at the end of May. And so this year I've decided to do it again. And oh Lord, like this year is just this movie's like the death of me, really. Like it's just so hard. And yeah, I mean, the story came out like pretty organically again. I sort of keep a whole like list of ideas, just in case for whatever. And when they released the quote, I felt like, okay, well, out of those ideas, I have probably like 5 that could possibly fit into this quote. And then I narrowed it down to 2. And so I wrote 2 little short scripts. And then after my discussion with the DP, I was like, I probably want to lean into this thriller idea that I had. And so we basically, signed off on that. And I started the pre-production, producing this thing. And then thankfully my DP was able to also help with producing. He helped me a lot with gathering the crew and like location and stuff but it was just like a lot. It became like such a big production. I didn't even know it's going to be like this, but it just became really big production. And that just like took a lot of my energy, and like I was tired on day 1. I was like so tired on day 1.
Do you have any regrets at this point?
Well, I mean, no, I'm not like a person who like has regrets. I think I'm always trying to do a good job, regardless. And I'm trying to do my best. Obviously, you can be perfect, and also especially you can be perfect with like limited resources. And I wish we could have someone, someone competent, like a good producer with us the whole day, because like every day is because obviously pre-production, like it's been a lot for me, and I wish that somebody took that toll on so I can focus just like on creative. But we all dream about it, right? We all were like, hey, where's that producer? So unfortunately, yeah, it just kind of didn't happen on that short turnaround, and I had to just do it all over again myself. So that's probably the only regret, that I just wish that somebody would take care of like half of this movie.
Well, I guess that's the thing that we build to, isn't it? I think we, in these careers and in this type of creative industry, that we build to a point where more and more people get involved with the things that we're doing. We have to go through these hard days, don't we? These struggles on our own, so that people come and join us on that journey, I guess.
Yeah. It's like one of those things, you have to like prove yourself before anybody believes in you, right? And the only person who believes in you is you. Like your mug, by the way, it's so cute.
Do you know what? My daughter would be upset because it's her mug. I didn't.
I thought it's yours. Come on.
No.
Oh, that's cute. It suits you. It's
I didn't
hilarious.
even notice actually. Yeah, very, very, very
Lovely,
masculine.
lovely. I need something like this in my life. I
A
can't
little
like
kitty.
it.
Here I am with my little kitty and my toys behind me, you know.
Nice.
Why not? Why not? So where did this all start for you then? Have you always been a creative person? Like when you were younger, was you always going to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I always loved movies. I was always watching movies, playing with kids. Outside, just like recreating some scenes from films, or like you're gonna be this character, you're gonna be that character, whatever. So it was,
Oh,
and
so
I would
did you
always.
grow up in Russia?
I'm
You're
sorry. Oh
born in
yeah,
Russia.
yeah. I
You're
was born and raised in Russia. Yeah, I came
Mhm.
to the States 10 years ago.
So
Yeah.
cinema and film in Russia, I don't know, I'm sorry. Is it very different?
Not. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, we obviously had like we saw American movies too. Everything that was released abroad was also released in Russia.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of remakes now. I mean, it's still the same kind of. So if you have like popular TV show or popular film, they would usually kind of have that idea and just like make it their own. But I think a lot of countries do that as well. So yeah, I don't know. Like now, actually, the it's very progressive. There are a lot of good films. Very high quality films. It's just for me, I feel like whenever I see Russian films, it's still like a lot of the storytelling is not there. Like there's something off with the storytelling. I don't feel like they kind of yeah. I don't feel like they've met Hollywood yet on that same level with
Mhm.
storytelling wise. Because like the quality and people, they're amazing. It's just sort of like I feel like there is no interesting story yet there. Um,
I wonder why
but
that is. If I try and think of a Russian movie, the only one that jumps to mind is do you remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, Night Watch, Day
no.
Watch?
Oh, yes, yes, yeah.
Two
Mhm.
films, Night Watch and Day Watch. There was like two films together. A little bit
Yeah,
like they came around the same sort of time as The Matrix and
yeah, it's by Timur Bekmambetov. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were very popular, yeah. They're not like my favorite films, but I think he sort of was able to bring yeah Russian films to European market. And yeah, bro, I don't know why it's just kind of feels like the distribution is very closed off. I don't know that aspect too much to talk about it, but I've noticed that for some reason, there's so many good films there, and why are they not traveling around the world? Like, why don't we see them, say, I don't know, on Netflix or something?
Mhm.
It could be, subtitles. Like, it's subtitles are now like getting, more acknowledged. So we could just do that. But it's a different world. I didn't know that.
yeah, I guess the political landscape may have something
Probably,
to probably got
yeah,
something to do with it as
definitely.
well.
I would say so. Yeah, yeah.
So what were your inspirations then growing up in filmmaking?
Just watching movies. I didn't go to any theater school, nothing like that up until I was 18. I've thought about it. I've thought about like I wanted to I wanted to pursue acting around like 15. When I was even earlier, because I was graduating high school, and I was like I want to try it, right? And um, then basically my mom got sick with cancer, and there were a lot of just like things happening in my life that I didn't have enough courage, or like even I didn't have any mentors, basically just be like, okay, go, like do it. So I was like scared to actually just go and pass those exams. I had like no one in my family or friends even that could guide me and be like, okay, um, call this person, like I don't know, just work with him on those monologues and whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna like settle the for the economics, because that's kind of like was the popular thing in my hometown, like a popular faculty to go to. And so but then like a few years later, I discovered in my university a theater studio. And that time I was like, if I don't try right now, I will like never try. I should do this. I should try it. And that was like the first big step, like that propelled me. And I got the feeling of acting. I was like, okay, I just really, really feel like I want to do this. And I graduated my university with economics degree. But after that, I just I worked like for 6 months in a bank, and then I took off to Moscow and started working in this international modeling agency because I felt like this can kind of give me. And I already dreamed about going to the U.S. because I've been into the U.S. when I was 18 for a few months, and I was like, this is like me. I want to be here. So I started like basically working my way on how to get here and how to study and how to continue the acting path. And
So,
basically, that's when I wanted to move to New York.
so you moved to America for
Mhm.
acting,
Yeah.
for pursuing this career. Did you
Hmm.
see did you see it as like the land of hope and dreams, and you saw
Yeah,
it the place of where opportunity would be available to you?
definitely, definitely. I definitely saw that this would be again when I was 18. You know, me and my best friend, we were here for like 4 months, traveling, and we we were on under the student program, so we were working and traveling. And I was like, this. I feel like this is my place. Like this is it. And I also felt like, yeah, with acting, everything's like possible here. You know. So yeah, I definitely felt this urge and this inspiration after I was in the U.S. and I wanted to come back like as soon as possible. And gradually, you know, finally, like I got my visa and I finally like got to the Herbert Beckhoff studio and just started like studying there.
And
So it
how long
was
were
like
you
kind
there
of a
for?
journey. I was there for 2 years,
Mhm.
and then you know, continue still like taking classes here and there, right? For like you always want to learn. But after that, I started building my portfolio because I think you have no better place but a set when you're an actor or anyone, like, you know, when you learn. Um, and yeah, like I grow so much when I'm just actually working on set because it's a different environment when you prepare something in advance or you work on some scene for a couple weeks or even just days, and versus when you have to go on set, you know, and then now like, okay, you're there now, do it
Now
quickly.
do now do the thing that you've been practicing.
Exactly.
I often see these things that we do, like being an actor, being a director, anything creative, that when we do the stuff at home, when we're practicing the lines, it's almost like we're an athlete in training.
Hmm.
This is like there's our time at the gym, but then there's our time on the field getting involved with the race. Is completely different, isn't it?
100%.
It's
Yeah.
a completely different feeling, and you need that time in the gym, but you also need that time to be out there on the field competing and playing,
Yeah,
don't you?
that's a great analogy. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because yeah, I mean, when you're racing actually on that track, I mean, it's you're dealing now with your mind, and I feel like that's the same with acting. You know, you have to you have to like control your mind in a way to
Mhm.
be able to get rid of all those distractions and being laser focused on the character or the story.
So would you say then, having now that you're invested in America, in LA, and you've found these opportunities, is America the place of hope and dreams? Is it the place? Is it truly everything you'd hope for, or is there anything missing?
I mean, it's definitely still a land of opportunity. You know, regardless, I think that there's no such industry but Hollywood, like, you know, yet. It might change in the future, but I don't see it. It doesn't compare to Hollywood. Like nothing compares to the way these guys were doing films for 100 plus years. You know, so it's a like well-oiled machine, and it keeps running. Obviously, you know, there were some challenges within the industry, as you know, with all those strikes, you know, and AI and all of these things. But it's still there, you know, and it's gonna keep continuing. It's gonna keep going. Um, I guess. I mean, in terms of, I don't know how to say that. I mean, I'm not like there's no such thing as like, oh, I'm so disappointed and I'm like gonna, I don't know, go home and cry. It's just like, obviously, when you're young, you're in your 20s, you have this dreamy idea of how everything works. But then you're dealing with reality. Then you're like, the reality is like, hello, well, it's not how it works, you know. You can't get there this fast, maybe, and you know, you have to go over like these hoops and do these things before you get to this level. So you know, it's just kind of like realizing that it's not that easy. I mean, I would never think that it's easy, but it's. I guess I've never thought that it would be this hard. And then
It's
the
a
industry's
going
changing.
back to that athlete analogy, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's gonna, it's gonna take time, unless
Mhm.
you get incredibly lucky, which does happen to very few people. But
Yeah.
for most of us to build any kind of career in the film industry, it takes
Mhm.
time and persistence.
No, 100%. And I don't know. I'm a strong believer that even, you know, that quote unquote luck, you know, it's I mean, I'm not talking about like YouTube, TikTok, you know, those social platforms that became accessible and definitely like fame building for a lot of people. But I'm talking about like real, you know, actors, you know, as we know them. I don't believe necessarily it's just luck. You know, it's like one of those expressions that it's a 10 years of overnight success, right? So
Mhm,
you can see all those actors, and then you realize, oh, they were like 12 and they were already working on set, you know, and now we know them. But it's, I think everything takes time, and it's okay, you know. And then this is where I found peace in it, and I finally, like later in my late 20s, it took a while for me to actually get to that point, you know, but because I'm so like impatient. But I've learned how to like actually be patient with it and just enjoying the process and enjoying the journey, and then just being
mhm.
happy that I'm actually doing creative work.
Yeah, because it is a blessing to be doing that. There is people out there that would just wish that they could find the opportunity to create
Definitely.
work, to do something, and you're doing it. You're
Yeah.
making moves. You're on the path.
Yeah.
Where would you say you are in your career at the moment? Where would you say, are you in a comfortable place, or you're in a place where you're stepping outside of comfort zones? Where are you right now?
Oh, I'm definitely, I feel like I'm always stepping outside of my comfort zones. And yeah, and back to what you said before, I really feel like, you know, I've been in those shoes before when I was, you know, back in Russia and I didn't have any opportunity in being in films. Like we had like no film there in my hometown. And wanting to do something, you know, wanting to be on screen or off screen, whatever. Um, and I didn't have those opportunities. And like, I'm just really grateful that I have those opportunities now. And I'm like, every day I'm just thankful that like, okay, I'm in the city of my dreams and I'm actually doing it. And all these great people around me, you know, I just, like I said, I'm still like finishing post for this film, but like all of these people, amazing, talented people were there for this story for me. It was a lot, like to, it was like pretty emotional because it doesn't happen every day, you know, and they were committed, you know, they showed up, you know, they did their amazing work. That's really cool. And I feel like as far as like looking at my lifetime and looking at my career, I feel like I'm just at the step of the mountain. Like, you know, I'm not anywhere. I'm just like, I reached the mountain and
Mhm.
I see that
And you're
it,
looking up.
and I'm looking out. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, there's still a good way to go, you know. It's really far, but but
And
at least I'm there. At
what's
least I'm looking at it.
and when you're down there at so we're at the bottom of that mountain at the moment. How does it look? It sounds to me that it looks like a place that you're just grateful to be.
I guess I don't know. I feel like I have this inner feeling that I'll get there. You know, it's just one of those things that as you're preparing yourself, you know, as we talked about being an athlete, right? And like I've prepared myself to climb that mountain. It's just now a matter of like, okay, slow and steady, breathing, right? Putting the work, one step after another and just doing it. But I kind of, I don't know, I see it and I feel it and I believe in me. So now
Mhm.
it's just a matter of time, and I always say that it's a matter of time. So I'm not like stressed about it, if that makes sense. I'm not like anxious
No,
as before. In my 20s it was a nightmare, because I would be so anxious and I'm like, but I'm 24 and I'm not there yet. What's going on? All this like bullshit.
I completely know how you feel. I did the same thing through my 20s. I did the
Mhm.
same. I did exactly the same. How am I not there yet? What am I doing wrong? Every audition I would go to, oh, I need this audition. It needs to be today,
Yeah.
and otherwise I'm a failure. And not realizing that every time I didn't get the audition, I learned something, and I was getting a
Mhm.
little bit better every time. And
Right.
yeah, and it didn't help me at all feeling like that. And I
Yeah.
and I and I and I say I wish I discovered it sooner, but I'm grateful that I didn't because I learned so much along
Mhm.
the way. That once you release and you stop feeling anxious and you're just grateful for where you're at the bottom of the mountain, you can look up and think, "Wow, that looks nice up there."
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's a really nice place to be rather than that place of, "Oh, I've got to get up there," and it being an impossible climb.
No, and if you think about it, if, how would you feel when you're starting climbing that mountain in that space if you're very anxious? Like you're out of breath. You will definitely not reach that. Just even thinking about it, you're like you won't because you're so anxious and you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I found it, yeah, that I'm just being like peaceful and trusting the process and trusting the universe, whatever it is out there, uh, I found it just like it's way more comforting and way more, um, yeah, and way more helpful to me. I feel like I'm way more productive and just healthy in my mind if I'm like that. And it's not about just like laying on the couch and just like ease up to it and just like do whatever like when you
Mhm.
want it to do it when you have an inspiration. No, it's still about putting the work, even when you don't have that inspiration, even when you're tired, but you're way more calm when you do it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I do feel like if things had happened for me any sooner, that anxious past Martin, I would have stumbled and fall had I have started to climb. Had I
Mhm.
have got some of those big auditions that I went for, I would have failed, even bigger, and maybe I would have never continued to climb the mountain.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
So,
Everything happens for a reason. I feel like
yeah,
everything happens for a
and
reason.
at the right time as well.
Hmm.
Everything happens at the right time.
The right time. Yeah. It's like when you'll realize when you're ready. And
Mhm.
I also felt that too. I felt like even though I really wanted something to happen, and I think it would be cool if something happened and I would learn something from it. But yet, maybe right, maybe I would just like it would freak me out, and I don't know, I would feel way more, I don't know, insecure about my performance or something, versus like now with with this experience and just life even experience because you know how it is important for an actor. I feel like way more confident and I can take also my failures in a different way. That makes sense. I can be like, well, this one didn't go well. Like it's okay. This happens. I will not cry about it for the whole night. It will be. It's okay. It's okay.
And like I was saying about seeing the blessing in that, seeing taking that failure when you've done something wrong or it didn't go like you hoped it had, taking that, looking back at it and going, well, it's not going to happen like that next time because
Hmm.
I understand something different now about myself or that type of situation.
Right. Right. Yeah. I
So
think that. Oh, you go ahead.
I was going to say, what does the top of the mountain actually look like for you? What does it look like? What does it look like? What do you hope that it will be when you get there?
Mm, that's a great question. I think for me, the top of the mountain right now is really making it my feature film. I mean, it's like And I mean, maybe I'm not talking about, like, something, crazy, like, Oscars and everything, which would be nice, of course, right? But like, I'm also just thinking of what would make me happy right now and like really feeling super accomplished and being proud of myself is like making a feature, because I have those stories and I would love, like, I think the top of the mountain would be to have like a theatrical release and seeing my film on screen, seeing like my writing, what I wrote, and what I wanted to say on screen. Um, yeah, I think this would be probably really, really good mountain to climb.
If you could if you could give yourself some advice in the future and say to yourself, remember this when you started the journey, when you started climbing, this is how I felt. What would you say to yourself at that point?
Oh, I would say love yourself. I would say that you should really be your best friend and yeah, like really, really loving yourself in the good way, in the most good way of the word love, because I feel like as creatives, we don't constantly, judge ourselves, and we're our worst critics. And that's how I feel like I was in my 20s. I was like the worst critic of myself. I would just like tear apart everything that I do and what I am. Like, I would be not happy with the way I look. I would be just like thinking like, okay, well, I'm not like probably skinny enough, or I'm not this enough, or something. Always finding this excuse of how maybe why I'm not getting a role or something. And yeah, I just felt like I did not give enough of this inner love. Like, obviously, I would not be like, just, I don't know, allowing like maybe some kind of abuse to myself, or disrespect from other people. But that internal love I'm talking about, that wasn't there. I feel like I
Mhm.
finally found it, yeah, in my late 20s and my 30s, when I was actually able to be like, well, I'm here, and I have value, and there's a reason why I'm on this planet, and there is a reason why, like, this source, whatever, put this drive in me for arts, for creativity. And yeah, I feel like this is probably the biggest thing that I think a lot of people are also struggling with, and it really damages your everything, your life, your view of yourself. And when you don't love the only person who's there, by your side the whole time, since the day one when you were born till the day you die, like, then what else do you want to talk about? I mean, you got to start with yourself.
Mm. For you, was it uh, a development of that self-love, or was there a moment? Where did you find that self-love?
It was definitely development over years. It didn't happen overnight. And as I'm sure a lot of things don't happen overnight in this life. Yeah, I think like one big step was when I read the book The Artist's Way, and I read the book You Are a Badass by Jensen Sarah. I am a strong advocate of this lady. I think I should have like some kind of endorsement from her, because I'm constantly like advertising it to my friends.
We'll make sure we put it in the comments as well.
Yeah, I know. Like, hey, FYI, I advertise you. But yes, but I really, that book really changed my life in that sense of like loving yourself. And every chapter that she finishes with some kind of like love yourself because of this and this, like love yourself because life's too short. I don't know, but along the lines, she always talks about that, and that gave me a lot of just kind of strength, to keep going on this journey. Because there were so many times, and I'm sure you can relate, when I, as an actor, wanted to give up, and I was just like, this is like not worth it. What am I doing? I'm just draining myself physically, mentally, spiritually, in any way. Like, what's the point of it all?
Mhm.
So that was like one big milestone, but it was, it's sort of like shifts, and it drifts, and I think only when I reached my 30s, I don't know, for some reason, this whole combination of like books that I was reading, the experience that I got, maybe like the meditations. I also am I'm a big practicer of meditations. And I strongly believe it's actually very important for an actor to do this work, to be grounded and relaxed, and um, getting all this, I guess, wisdom from all those people, from people who have those guided meditations. I just kind of call a combination of it all just helped me to realize that okay, I have this strength. And I think the final like cherry on top was I think making my first film Parallels. It was a big film. It was like 40-minute film. We had like obviously the cut for festivals 30 minutes, but it was like my first film, abroad, going back to my hometown, doing that film in 5 days, 5.5 days, basically. It was just, it was a lot. And, when I did that work, it sort of like freed me, and it showed me that, oh, like I can do this. And also I don't have to be dependent on all those casting directors or, anybody just to tell me like how good or bad I am. I can actually be my own boss, and I can actually make movies. Um, and yeah, I just realized like all of a sudden that curtain just like dropped, and I was like, okay, this is like I don't like I deep in my mind, of course, I knew I was like, well, like it's acting is like this, it's cruel business, etc. But again, there's always this voice that's like, you're not good enough, all of this. But with my film, I gained that confidence being like, well, I actually made this really good film, and I can do more. I can do more. I can do more than just acting too. And I don't have to be dependent on other people to tell me what to do.
That's really interesting that you say that, because that was very similar with me. That my big struggle in my 20s and early 30s with wanting to be an actor, filmmaker, involved in theatre, was always waiting for other people to say yes, was
Mm-hmm.
always asking to
Mm-hmm.
be part of other people's things. And I really struggled with that I had this passion inside of me to create, to storytell, but it was always up to everyone else whether I could. And
Right.
the moment that I just did it anyway, that I stopped waiting for them, everything became better.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment that I said, right, I'm just going to do this now. I'm just going to put on my play. I'm going to find a way to do it. I'm just going to write my script. I'm going to just start my podcast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed.
No, not waiting for permission. Like, we don't need to do that, do we, as artists?
Yes, yes. And I feel like we hear it a lot, don't wait for permission, right? But it's one thing to sort of like hearing it and knowing it versus actually practicing it and actually
Mm.
feeling in your bones that, yeah, you don't need anyone else to tell you. You don't need anyone else to prove anything. You're just going to do it, and when you have, I feel like when you have this drive, when you have this direction, nothing can really stop you because eventually you're going to get there. Just if you are like narrow focus, and you just keep on pursuing that dream, whatever it is for you, then it's going to happen. I mean, for me, that was like with my film Parallels, because it just I felt an urge to tell the story, and I felt like I had these things that were in my life that still bugged me. It was a film basically about me growing up in Russia and that period of my life when my mom got sick. And so I felt like I didn't have any closure, even though it was like so many years past, like more than 10 years. But I felt like I wanted to tell the story. And actually, I feel like this was the time when it really healed me, when it really, really like made me at peace with everything that happened to me. So, and I strongly believe that art is really healing, because done I've done some therapy here and there, but like in the end, telling this story was like my therapy, and
Mhm.
coming to closure with that.
That's really powerful. That's really, it is a powerful thing, isn't it? Putting yourself into your art and being vulnerable, because
Hmm.
you told your story there.
Yeah.
You've put that out into the world, and you've taken it off of your shoulders, and you've made something of that difficult time.
Yeah, no, I think that writing and directing and acting, everything, like, is it's a one form of revealing a part of yourself. Those writers write, and they write, in a way, they write themselves, right? They write some characters that may be based on them, or some stories, like some chapters that happened to them, whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of writers in their writing, and there is a lot of actual, obviously, in actors, it's the same way. We draw a lot from our own experiences, from our own pains. And with directing, you do want to bring your soul into it, even though even if you cannot, like, maybe necessarily relate exactly to the character or something, but you do put your vision, you do put your heart into it. So it's all very intimate. I think all of those three avenues of exposing yourself, and yeah, I think it's just like, it's so intimate and powerful, and it's a hard work. It's a very, like, in a being this courageous. I think it is just like, it's tough, and this is why a lot of people are not doing. I think because it is tough to expose yourself and just be like, hey,
Mhm.
well, this is me, this is my art, and because it's a part of me. It's like almost being like, well, now I'm naked in front of you. I'm
So
here to
I guess the question from here is, how do you take that first step then? How do you be vulnerable?
It's just like, I think it's just a leap. I think I don't think there is a the more you think about it, the more excuses you're gonna find to stop yourself. It's
Mm.
just one of those things that you have to just run off the cliff and hope that you're gonna fly. And there's this pretty funny, cool quote that I just recently read, that it says, "Fly the plane while you're building it." So this is kind of like what it is, I think, in filmmaking and everything that we do. You discover, you must start with something, and then you'll figure it out. You'll build those parts. Um, it's just like, do this, I don't know, and then go for it.
Just
Because you're
jump.
gonna start overthinking it, and you're not never gonna do it.
Mm. Yeah. But this has been a really meaningful and wonderful conversation.
Thank
I
you for
really do
having me. Yeah,
appreciate you joining me, Kate.
I
If
really enjoy meeting you, Martin, too. I'm so happy that you're also so, like, involved in all of it too.
that's
It's
nice. I
really.
appreciate. Thank you. Just leave this on. I've got one last question for you then. So, if anyone watching this is like a young Kate out there in the world, and they've got aspirations to be a filmmaker, but they don't know where to start, they don't know what to do, what would you say is the first step?
Mm. I would say the first step is to do anything related to arts, whatever you want to do. If you are a writer, start with a little story, whatever it is. Don't think about if it's good or bad. Just do it. Just write it. Test it out. If you're a filmmaker, go out, and shoot with any cheap camera, or rent a camera. It's pretty accessible nowadays. It's so easy to do anything, even with your iPhone. Um, like anything, really. Um, if you're an actor, well, maybe go to the local theater and ask if they need any help, and just get involved. Basically, get involved in anything,
Mm,
any classes, anything, because that just the action of itself is gonna propel you to do more and learn and get this, like, drive. You can't do that while you're still, and when you stay at home and just dream about it. You actually have to actively do it.
wonderful. Well, thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. Appreciate you joining me.
Thank you
If
for
anyone
that.
if anyone has been watching or listening, or listens back to when we put this out on the podcast, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. And yeah, thank you, Kate.
Thank you so
And
much, Martin. Have
good
a
luck with your
great night in
good
UK. It
luck,
was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for having me.
and you too. Hopefully meet at some point in the future. I'm sure our
Um,
paths will cross again.
I would love to. Thank you so much.